we fly MIA. We pulled up, sipping on this drink, bitch, I know the way. We juiced up, nigga violate till it's JFK like Jerusalem. Coin daddy about them chips, nigga, rap snacks. Face all in a box, nigga, Snapchat.
Yeah, it's your boy Crypto Blood. Yes, new time, new date. We're doing Sundays from now on, people. 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Off the Chain, episode 40. Let's get it cracking. Hope everyone's doing well today. Happy Memorial Day weekend. We're going to get started here in a second. Got a native Detroiter who's going to join me today. And we're going to talk about a whole bunch today. I'll drop the link in the chat room soon. Make sure you guys hit the like button, share it, get people in here. You got the phone number on the screen, so make sure you call me too. We'll start here in a second.
In my grave while they out searching, celebrating with my coins, niggas out here searching. Nah, I'ma wash them with some Tide detergent. You are fucking with the wrong person. For the coins, some people come up with all kind of schemes. Silly niggas for the paper doing anything. Stacking my coins, stacking my coins, stacking my coins, stacking my coins. Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, cash, Bitcoin.
Shout out to Dolphin 134.
Stacking my coin, stacking my coin. Stacking my coin, stacking my coin.
Lucky Lloyd, what's going on? We got some people from Cali in the building today. Checking in on Nate. That's my guest for this evening. Nick Lovin, what's good, man? Haven't talked to Jane in about 2 weeks now, man. I don't know what happened to her. Just fell off the face of the earth, man. I was texting her, sending, articles back and forth. I don't know where she's at. Maybe she'll call in. I don't know. Let's see.
Yeah, cause we in the trenches. Crypto is my pension. Dividends is my mission. And I'm inspired to try on digits. Get it.
Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Okay. Ready?
Fucking thing sucks. We'll do it live.
Okay. Yes, indeed. We are doing it live, ladies and gents. Welcome to another episode. Hope everyone is doing well out there. Today we've got Nate Talbot. He's a Detroiter. We're going to talk to him about, we got a lot to talk about. CDC, they're scrambling around. Trump just came out of nowhere saying that he wants the churches and religious organizations to open up this weekend. I'm going to list some of their guidelines they had to rush and put out. Sad, man, sad. Senate also votes, and this is a very big one here, people. I just can't believe this didn't get more attention. Nate talked about it on Twitter a few weeks ago, but the Senate votes to allow FBI to look into your web browsing history without a warrant. And this is under the Patriot Act. I know everyone remembers that one. We're going to talk about that tonight and a list of other things, but let me go ahead and introduce my man Nate to the show, guys. Give him a warm welcome. Nate, what's going on, brother?
What's happening? You all right?
Yeah, man. What up, though?
Everything. What up, though?
So thanks for coming on today, man. I was like, I want to spice it up a little bit, switch it up. Nate has never been on the show, guys, but I know him locally. Yeah. He's an instrumental part of the blockchain movement here in Detroit, and I wanted to just get him on the show. I'm like, let me get someone random and new on the show. So Nate, man, tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll start there. Tell us a little about Nate Toshi.
Natoshi 625. Yeah,
man.
Thanks for inviting me on. For everybody who doesn't know, I'm Nate Talbot. I'm the executive director of Detroit Blockchain Center. We're a nonprofit blockchain advocacy group who focuses on like blockchain education, business support for anybody who wants to start up blockchain businesses or anything related to blockchain businesses. And then we do some community service work that's blockchain related.
So how long you been in the space, man?
Well, I've been playing around with Bitcoin and things since like 2015 or so. And then seriously looking at more of a business standpoint since around early 2016 or so, once I started learning really what what everything was really about, and it was, more than just a financial asset.
Right. So you have a technical background?
I have a light technical background. I've done like some full stack web development stuff. So that's pretty much it. People call me a programmer, but I would never go into a room of serious programmers and offend them like that.
Right. I hear that, man.
Yeah, but I know enough where I can work my way through some code. I can understand what's going on.
Enough to be dangerous, basically, right?
Yeah.
No doubt. So, guys, like I said, he's pretty instrumental in the blockchain industry here in Detroit, Michigan, and really pushing it forward as far as trying to get adoption here and more awareness about blockchain. So, Nate, man, what is going? Before we started going live, you kind of asked me how I was doing, how the family was holding up with the whole Corona thing. Didn't get your answer because I wanted to do it live. What's going on with you, and how's the whole COVID thing handling? How have you been handling that?
As far as health wise, I'm all good. I know several people have contracted it. I know a couple people have died from it. But me and the people closest to me, we've skated through all right.
Good.
I actually think it was around a little earlier than everybody said, because I was around some people who had all the symptoms in like February.
Yep.
So I'm pretty sure I've been exposed to it. I think I was just one of those lucky ones that was probably asymptomatic and whatnot.
Lucky one spreading it around, didn't even know it.
Well, here's the thing with the quarantine and everything, which is, I'm really sort of introverted on most aspects. So, it's a lockdown for everybody else, but it's just another Tuesday for me.
Right.
As long as I got my internet, I'm good.
As long as you got that internet, I hear you on that one, man. That's hilarious. Yeah. So, what I was gonna ask you, did you know? I didn't know this. I know you probably know. What's her name? Tatiana. Tatiana Grant. Do you know her?
No.
No, you know her? Okay.
No.
But you may know the gentleman that was her partner, Stoudemire.
Yeah.
Did you know that guy?
Yeah, I did some work with him in the past.
Yeah, so he passed from COVID.
Yep. He was the first person I knew that passed from it. So yeah,
that was a shock, and I found out just literally like 4 days ago.
Oh really?
Yeah, I didn't know he had passed, man. So that's crazy, shocker. Man. Where do you want to start today, though, man? I've got a list of topics that I sent over to you.
Yep.
Where do you want to start, man?
I'm a big advocacy of privacy and how everybody's trying to take it all away from us. So I know we was talking about the new Patriot Act that just passed.
Yeah, man. So let's talk about that. And ladies and gents, make sure you call in if you want to talk as well. This Patriot I think it was like an amendment to the Patriot Act, right?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, it comes up for reauthorization every few years. And usually they just rubber stamp it. But as is good with any good old controlling government, now that we're all distracted with other things, they decided to beef it up a little bit and really go into that warrantless surveillance aspect. So tapping into our browsers without warrants, looking at your view history, seeing what you're looking at online, making sure that you're not talking about anything they don't want you talking about.
This is like, I saw you tweet about it a few weeks ago. To you, did this kind of fly under the radar? Did and it's probably because of COVID, right? That's pretty much got everyone's attention. But I would have thought you would have seen a little bit more dust kicked up over this. But at the same time, you look at this, I mean, the Republicans were in bed with this, the Democrats. So both sides were kind of in bed with it. So the media is not going to push that narrative, right?
Right. Yeah, especially you're in an election cycle year. They're not going to cover anything that's bipartisan, and this was definitely a bipartisan thing. And it wasn't new. They've been trying to backdoor security for at least a good year and a half, as far as like, I know a lot of listeners might be familiar with some of the FBI tactics trying to get Apple to unlock people's phones and whatnot. And this is all tied to that. They got a real strong campaign going internationally, really, to get rid of encryption, give themselves a backdoor in. So it's harder for you maybe to tap into a conversation, but they can always tap in wherever. But anybody who's seen anything who's been a part of online community at all, I mean, I don't trust the government to just have a backdoor, even if I thought they were going to use it the right way. If they have a backdoor, everybody's got a backdoor.
Exactly. My whole thing is power corrupts power. You know what I'm saying? And eventually it's going to be corrupted. Right. And I think, man, do you think in this day and age with where we are and how we literally as a group, Democrat, Republican, doesn't matter, have we gotten so far away from what is constitutional and what isn't? Do you think we're so far gone that we won't be able to come back and actually fight for our rights? I know it's
getting closer. No, but we get closer every year. I mean, America is sort of built up on this false, almost on a false narrative. World War II happened, the rest of the world was collapsed, and there was nobody else, and we were relatively unscathed because we're on the other side of the ocean, right? And Mexico and Canada weren't invading, so we were unscathed. World War II ended. We were good. This is sort of where the whole middle class concept popped up from. There was no strong financial system anywhere. And it's like every year we just got comfortable. They've turned everybody into consumer base. We're just real comfortable with ourselves. And we think it can't happen here. There's a story we hear about in China or Venezuela or someplace in Africa or South America or something. Not here, But every day, they erode away a little bit more, take a little bit more power for themselves, and that's less decisions you have to have, or get to say in your life.
So do you think, though, with that being said, though, do you think that we have a chance you think the people are really going to wake up? I'm not that optimistic. I don't think that we're going to fight for our rights. I think we're just going to take whatever they give us.
So I'm not optimistic either. Don't ever let me give you that impression. I'm very pessimistic on the future of of us. But here's one thing I do know. If you look at any serious revolution, from civil rights to actual American Revolution to anything, most people aren't a part of that. I mean, you're not going to get everybody on board. You're not going to get most people on board. It's always a small group of people who fight. I look at the cypherpunks from like the 80s and 90s before I really realized what was going on. Before we had SSL, this little green lock on the browser. It was a small group of cypherpunks when Congress was trying to push through no encryption at all. They're the ones who stood up for it before any of us really knew what it was and what it meant. And they won. And again, you can go back to the American Revolution. You can go back to civil rights movement. Most people weren't down with all that. It was a really small group who just ended up fighting for everybody, and everybody just benefits. And that's what it's going to have to be again. It's not too late yet, but the closer we come to sort of a totalitarian government, the less likely we are to be able to reverse any of it.
Yeah, this is bad news to me, man. This Senate vote, man, and I think it just, again, because we don't put up a fight, they're going to continually take away more of our rights. But I think that we do have one silver lining, and that is cryptocurrencies. I think this blockchain, right there, we can put up a fight. We have technology to leverage against that. But at some point, do you see even the technology that we use to circumvent the surveillance state? Will that be labeled illegal?
It could be. The power, what drew me to crypto and blockchain in general, and always started with Bitcoin. A government can only do so much as what it can enforce, right? And this lockdown is a latest example of it. For the past few weeks, governors across the country have been putting people that stay on home orders, and whether you agree with it or not, the bottom line is people go out, and now you have the cops, courts, and everybody. They're not even enforcing any of it. And what good is a rule if you can't enforce it? You can shut down. They can try to shut down the internet. They've done that in China several times to try to stop like Bitcoin, but it's never worked because they don't have the power to like put an armed guard next to every single person with a computer connection. In the world, I don't see a world where no matter how much the government wants to show things, where they go back before internet. It makes life it's too easy. That's why they like it so much. They like the surveillance. They like to be able to hop in and out.
So Afro Chick Media said, "How Sway? How can crypto help?" What would you say to that question? I guess she's talking about fight against surveillance state. It's more so blockchain, not so much maybe cryptocurrencies, though that can play a part because now they can't confiscate your coins, your wallets so easily, right? It's a little bit harder, but kind of answer to that question Afro Chick had.
I mean, it's at the root, and what's up, Afro Chick? I know who that is there. So
I know you got a couple people in the crowd today.
But you think of it just like all of us here probably have downloaded a MP3 or movie.
I ain't never downloaded nothing though.
Right. Well, except for you and except for me. But people know somebody who's done it, right? And it's the same reason they couldn't shut that down, and they tried hard to shut that down. It's a peer-to-peer network, and with blockchain, any distributed ledger technology, for real, if it's a public chain, something like Ethereum, Bitcoin, any of the public chains that are open and decentralized, you can't shut it down because the blockchain is just data, right? That's not really the important part. It's the network. And as long as you have two or more people who are willing to keep that network open, it's that whack-a-mole. The government can't shut it down. They might be able to shut me down, right? They can't shut the network down. And it's open source. So let's say there's only 10 of us in the network. They capture all 10. All it takes is some kid in the basement someplace to download the code and start it right back up again. You can't shut it down. So they can do things illegal. I just saw something today about them saying Russia is proposing owning any cryptocurrencies illegal with jail sentences and whatnot. And they can do that. That's the thing, people, man. But it doesn't stop it. It only cuts a country out. And so but I guess my question is though, do you think we'll get to that point in the United States? Like if that happens, because you got to think, we haven't seen, I say this all the time on my show, we have not seen the United States government actually go after Bitcoin yet. Right. So what does that landscape even look like? Will that stunt the growth of adoption? Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
They can slow the growth down. But this isn't and having conversations with Bitcoin, I always like to go back to Bitcoin, not because I'm some kind of maximalist or anything. I'm very sort of chain agnostic as long as it's an open chain. But Bitcoin's sort of the simplest use case. So I go to that a lot. But they can try to drop down Bitcoin. But for Americans, and really a lot of countries in the West, it's sort of irrelevant right now. It's really just a speculation tool. We don't have, as much as we complain about the Fed printing up trillions of dollars, I mean, you can still go to the bank and withdraw money. You have access. It's not for us yet, right? And so America intervening in it maybe slows the adoption here in America, but then unless they're going to really turn into like some kind of socialist state or some communist state that locks everything down, imperialistic state more than they are already, people are just going to leave and develop elsewhere. You know what I mean? The regular citizens will be stuck, but the developers are going to just go someplace where they can develop. It's what they've already been doing in crypto for the past few years. Every time a country shuts something down, here in America, when the SEC makes something even harder to do, people just leave and go someplace where they can develop. So they're not really slowing it. They're making their own citizens and themselves miss out on it.
Wow. So my man Finance Freak says Russia is more free speech / market than America. U.S. will ban Bitcoin before Russia does. What do you say about that?
I don't know.
I don't know about that one.
I don't know.
But again, I haven't been to Russia, so I don't know. I'm only speaking about America on behalf of America.
I was about to give you the same disclaimer. I mean, I don't try to speak on places I haven't been, just things I know, think I know at least. But I do agree. It might be likely that America's more likely to ban crypto than Russia is, or do it first. They have more to lose. You know, Russia isn't a world reserve currency. They're trying to get back to that status. That's why they do a lot of the things they do, because they want to be back at a power nation status. U.S. is the only real global power right now, and there's definitely some competitors coming up, and that would, Russia's trying to be one of them. China's definitely one of them. On the low key, Germany's one of them. But yeah, I don't know. We can shut it down, but
Germany is kind of they're kind of stuck within the EU. They're kind of trapped in their own web, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That whole EU structure would have to break down and unfold before we see Germany come to power in any certain, any way, shape, or form, in my opinion.
Yeah, but from what I know of the EU, it's a very fragile system at the moment. The whole Brexit thing showed how sort of fragile everything is. It's not like the U.S. and the States, right? They tried to sort of take the same concept as the United States. You have a bunch of independent, sovereign states who act unilaterally together. But it's not like the U.S. They're a lot looser. Brexit would be the equivalent of Texas just decided that we're up and out. It wouldn't be down to a vote here. Like, all right, well, the Texas want to go, let them go.
Yeah, no, I hear that. I like that. I like that analogy. And I want to just highlight from this article that we're talking about, guys, out of Vice, and I'll drop a link to it in the chat room right now. But basically, what we have here is a bipartisan vote. So I have my criticisms of the Democrats. They're worse. They're the worst of two evils, in my opinion. If you had to pick between Democrats and Republicans, that's just my take. I don't know what your stance is, but
I think they all suck.
They do. But the thing is, we've divided our nation politically because one thinks their camp is just, you know what I'm saying, like without a stain, and the other isn't. And so here we have, guys, a bill that was bipartisan. We had Mitch McConnell was part of it. You had a few Democrats that voted no to make sure, or basically no to eliminate it.
Or didn't show up like Bernie at all to vote.
Didn't show up like Bernie Sanders. So my Bernie Sanders people, you gotta look, man. I mean, our rights being taken away directly in front of our faces. It's insane.
So I mean, if you look through history, there's the powerful and there's the not powerful, right? And the powerful will always set up these decoys to make you think, to set you against other people, and you're not focused on where the real issue is. They've done it with race, they do it with financial status, and they're doing it with politics, right? Republicans aren't better than Democrats, and Democrats ain't better than Republicans. They're really the same for the most part. You look at them, their talking points might be on the end, even the extremist ones, it might be on the ends, but this right here, when it comes down to things that really matter, it's bipartisan. They're both in on it.
Yep. U.S. Senate, guys, votes. Again, I'm just going to reiterate what we're talking about here. The Vice article. U.S. Senate has voted to give law enforcement agencies access to web browsing data without a warrant, dramatically expanding the government's surveillance powers in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic. And, I have arguments online all the time with people saying it's a pandemic, it's this and that. My personal opinion is that they're going to take advantage of any crisis. That's what they love to do. So they're going to take advantage of it. I personally think it was a bioengineered weapon that was leaked by mistake, but doesn't matter. Once that is out, once we see these governments see the capabilities they have to unleash draconian laws and do this and that, they're going to take advantage of that opportunity. What do you say about that?
I agree. You know, I've always been really anti-major conspiracy theorist. Not because I don't think conspiracies happen; they happen all the time, but because if it's a real conspiracy, the ones behind it, they're not the ones. They're going to hide it, right? And the ones that you hear about are the ones they want you to think about. They want that argument going on, because while you're too busy arguing about whether it's a pandemic or an actual pandemic, they're out there taking away every piece of privacy and security you have. They like that. They like you being, distracted. You know?
Yeah, man.
They'd rather have you watching reality TV. You know what I mean? And that's why they've turned the news cycles into reality TV.
Yeah, news cycles are complete reality TV, man. Oh my God. It's
and
pure
people,
entertainment now.
Right, but this, again, the news cycle is fake news is not a Trump invention. You know what I mean? People were talking about fake news years before Trump ever started saying it. He just co-opted it, and now they've got people so hating each other. Now that he says it, everybody who used to agree that news
was fake,
problematic,
right?
Oh, if Trump don't like it, it's got to be good then. And that ain't true. You know what I mean?
Oh man, no doubt. I was talking to my mom yesterday. I can't remember what I was saying, but essentially about something that Trump did or said, and so now they want to take the opponents want to take the opposite side when they were on that side in the first place. But since Trump said it, I think I was talking about hydrochloroquine, right. HCQ.
Yeah, I
was like, and no one had any problems with HCQ. I'm not saying it's a miracle drug. It's not. My stepfather was on HCQ, azithromycin or whatever it's called, azithromycin or whatever, and zinc, and it didn't really work for him. But at the end of the day, there's data that shows if you take it like before you get sick as a preventative measure, you won't get hit as hard. Or if you take it right when you get sick, you won't get hit as hard. But to see how they're, to me, putting out this propaganda like HCQ causes heart attacks and does all this, I'm like, where's the data before coronavirus? You go back and look at data before the coronavirus, none of this stuff exists. There are no huge cases of heart attacks and they got large sample sizes of data because this has been around. This drug has been around for a while. It's a generic drug now. It's been around so long now. It's a generic drug.
Yeah.
25 cents every day. Something cheap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know.
And they just flip, man. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I don't know if it's good or not. I'm no research scientist or anything, but I do know you're right on that aspect. You know, if Trump hadn't said it, or that would be my strategy if I was Trump or in his camp. Everything I want, I would just come out publicly anti of it. You know what I mean? Like, don't do this. I'm going to make all the governors make sure they don't try this new drug, and that way.
Honestly, bro, you are so right. That should be his. If he wins next year, which is that's a whole nother subject, because I'm thinking things are being set up in a way for him not to win. For Biden, Joe 30330 to come in, Sleepy Joe to come in and steal the game. But if he does win, he should just flip the script, man.
Yeah.
Everything he wants, just say the opposite.
Yeah, that's opposite day forever. You know what I mean? But that's what we're living in, the upside down.
We are living in bizarro world. Speaking of a bizarro world, we got our man, we Detroit people. Our man, Kwame Kilpatrick. Now, let me say this, people. Kwame did a lot of dirt. Okay? Not saying he didn't. If you guys don't know, Kwame Kilpatrick is the ex-Detroit mayor here in our city. And he did a lot of dirt. But he went to jail, to me, Nate, for us. He's doing a sentence that is extremely too long. How many years did Kwame get?
Something like 27 or something.
27 years, 25 years. Football numbers is what they call them. And looks like he is getting out, right? He's getting out of jail early.
Yep, next month.
Next month. He is getting out. And what are your thoughts about this whole situation?
This all ties together to the same thing. with everything we're talking about, how governments work, you know, there's a real conversation even with what's that, Flynn happening, and whether or not the FBI will prosecute. See, America has to come to, and I say America, not just the government, the people too. You have to come to a certain realization. They've been sort of double dipping, right? Either, in Kwame's example, all right, let's assume he did wrong, right? We'll just say he was rightfully prosecuted, so we just have a strong base to start from. Either he was over prosecuted with this extended time, or like everybody else is under prosecuted.
Yeah.
Right? It's not both ways. And that's the real issue. And Biden was even trying to talk about this, not intelligently really, when he was, I think it was on the Breakfast Club call he did, you know, the You Ain't Black call. When he was talking about they brought up mandatory minimums, he's like, well, it's not that we set a mandatory minimum, we just said you can't show favor to somebody. It's like, yeah, which means you're either over punishing people or you have this jacked up system. And they don't really want to admit they have a jacked up system, because then you have to change the whole system. And so they try to have it these both ways, but cases like Kwame pop out. Either he was overcharged, or somebody like was it the Chicago governor?
Oh, Blagojevich.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's out, and Trump is behind this Kwame thing too.
Trump, you know what I mean? Listen. Thank you for pointing this out, because I had this conversation with my fellas. Man, they hate Trump. I'm the only one over there swinging around. Not saying I'm a Trump lover. Everything he does is right. No, he's not. That's at all. Matter of fact, we got a article we're going to talk about that Trump he just kind of spits from the hip, man. He shoots from the hip sometimes, or a lot of times, and it's not advantageous for him. But anyway, Trump got the Blagojevich guy out. Mm-hmm. He's a Democrat. I think he was sentenced a little too long as well. And now Trump is behind getting ex-mayor Kwame Kilpatrick out. So guys, recognize, you got to give credit where credit is due.
But it's a political ploy. It's not like Trump care about.
No.
I can't remember her name, the local rep here. The reason he's doing it, and you know, of course, I don't have evidence, so this is all my assumptions. But
sure.
I can't remember her name. The local rep who's with the organization who's been trying to get Kwame out. She's the same one who backed Trump on the hydrochlorine stuff.
Yeah,
the Democrats in Michigan censored her. She might have said she took it.
Yeah.
But the point is, she stood up for Trump, and we do know one thing about Trump: he loves people who show loyalty. The Democrats censored her because she agreed with Trump on some stupid stuff, right?
Yeah.
They censored her, and now this is her reward.
Yeah. You
stuck with me. I need some votes in Michigan. Let me let Kwame out, and now I can start to help swing Detroit over to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Especially on top of Biden's ain't black comment. It didn't help.
No, that didn't help.
That
was a bad move for Biden. Do you think blacks are gonna take that up though? You think they're gonna like put that as something they remember, or they're gonna just forget it?
No, I think enough can remember. Remember, he doesn't got to win a popular vote. And this is where they jacked up with Hillary. He doesn't need to win all the votes. He doesn't really need to win most of the votes. He doesn't need to win the majority of votes. He needs to win the Electoral College. So all he needs is enough people to either be empathetic or, you know, just a few people to swing, and he's got it again, you know? So it's all based on, you know, the whole, like we were just saying, with the fake news and misinformation, and people look at Bitcoin a lot, just to bring crypto into the conversation.
Sure.
But again, if you have a network like, let's say Ethereum, since it's the strongest multi-purpose chain out there, you have something like Ethereum, you can start to take news and news sources and make that decentralized, just like the money is, right? Mm-hmm. And now when you start looking at news sources, people don't know where to look. This was a good part of institutions. You know what I mean? I'm not one of those all institutions sucked. I think they had a purpose at one point.
Sure.
Most of them are just now overextended or outlived their usefulness.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes a gatekeeper is good if you could trust it. You know what I mean? We just can't trust any of them now. So when you could trust a news organization to sort of be non-biased and unbiased about things, then you could take a news source because they gave you news. They didn't give you all these interpretations and talking heads and, Trump does or anybody does some kind of press briefing. And now we got an hour of people telling us how to interpret it. Like,
yeah.
I don't need you to tell me how to interpret it. Just tell me what happened.
Right.
And so blockchain is another situation where you can get that because at least we can verify news sources. I was with somebody the other day, and they pulled up a video about how to deal with coronavirus and whatnot and drinking water and all that. I was like, that sounds sort of garbage because even if it's true, one thing I do know about like anything scientific, they're not going to give you all these details because people will misconstrue it, right, and get it wrong. So that's why they keep information real simple a lot of times. She's like, no, it's got to be true because this is what they showed us at the job in the training. And so I looked it up because I know how to research, you know what I mean? And UNICEF disagreed with everything in the video. The CDC disagreed with everything in the video. Health professionals across Europe disagreed with everything in the video. But now we got employers pushing this information like it's true because even they don't know.
So what's the information that you saw? What was she saying?
The two parts I looked up was about like coronavirus. You got to drink water every 15 minutes because it pushes it down into your stomach and stomach acids will kill it. But I mean, it didn't make sense to me because I know they've been finding it in like feces and stuff, right?
Yeah. It's actually a virus that lives in the GI tract.
Right.
Yeah, that's actually
how does
where
drinking water help? So how does drinking water help that?
Yeah,
it can't.
It doesn't.
And then they said the same thing about cold, but they also had people putting blow dryers in their faces thinking they're going to burn it out before they could breathe it in or something. So it's just bad information. It's like, where do you go? I don't blame people. It's just like with
Okay, so do you have a problem with censorship then? Like how these social media networks are censoring anything that's anti-CDC? Like it just brings up a big discussion. You know what I'm saying? Like, where do you draw the line? Do you allow disinformation and misinformation to just run rapid on these social networks? I think so. Darwinism. Let the people that are stupid enough to try this stuff kill themselves so they can go ahead and get out the way.
Yeah, that's definitely a viewpoint. I don't take the stance of their, censorship's a strong word. Okay. And so when most people say it, they think of First Amendment censorship, freedom of speech. But the difference is that's with government, right?
Right. We're talking about private entities.
So if they want to, everybody who says the word if they want to censor them off, it's a private business. Stop using the platform.
Right.
I know it's hard because you get things some mammoths like Facebook, and it's like hard because it's built on a network.
They've got critical mass, right? Everyone's on there.
But then you either have to make a decision as a person, like, all right, would I prefer that every time someplace gets too big, the government steps in and takes it so it can be censorship free, or do I let sort of the market do its thing? And I look at just like free speech. I don't get up in arms every time somebody I disagree with, the Klan or whoever, starts marching on the street. I don't go out to anti-boycott their movement. I'm not for it, but if I want my freedom of speech, I gotta be willing to give them theirs.
I gotta give them theirs. Exactly. Let's get this caller really quickly, Nate. Caller on the line, support Crypto Blood and Natoshi on with us tonight, episode 40. What's going on? Who's calling in?
Hey, it's Seth Estrada.
Hey, man. What's going on with you?
Just sitting at home. I saw you guys live and definitely felt what you guys were talking about with all the misinformation on coronavirus. You guys are speaking my language right now. I'm going stir crazy at home.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on everything?
I think that, to your point, with a lot of the misinformation on health guidelines, I think we're going to see some major backlash. I'm surprised we haven't seen legit violence already.
Right.
In what way? And when you say, be more specific.
So specifically, civil unrest, seeing people who've been told to stay at home, seeing people who've been told they can't go to their job, seeing people who are losing their financial interests watching their businesses implode, seeing people who are told, hey, you do have a lifeline, but you have to go through these government programs such as the Paycheck Protection Program, which if you read the terms, gives them all kinds of executive control over your business. I mean, we're being painted into a corner.
I don't know if you saw my off the chain. I think it may have been the last one. A gentleman called in. I forgot the term. It's a legal term that's in the PPP that gives them the right to take over your business or some sort. The type of loan that it is. Did you hear about that? I'm assuming you did, Seth.
Yes, that's precisely what stopped me from pursuing it for my business.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think they should do that too. I'm not anti that because so you have to break up businesses first of all, and I learned this a long time ago. Small business, as they quote it, it's not what we think it is. You know what I mean? You have some manufacturers. Chrysler at one point was considered a small business.
Yeah, you got like 500 employees and be considered a small business, I think.
Yeah, they got multi-million. You know, they're making $120 million a year in profits, and they're small business. I think a small business.
Small business should be, not to cut you off. I'm sorry to cut you off. Small business should be a cap on revenue. Let's just do it that way.
Well, and I think they do it that way, but they've mixed that in their employee status. But it's such a high cap.
Yeah.
That count. And so, like, I don't know, Seth, or your business or anything, but like, yeah, I'm not for it. If you got a truly legit small business who's been hit by this, I think you guys should. I think those kind of businesses should get a semi no strings attached. But a lot of these businesses, NLW on Twitter, he does the aggregation of news cycles, and he had a thing on it. And you know, a lot of these businesses, he had found out where they just weren't even trying to like go to a bank or get a traditional loan. They literally went straight for the government bailout because it was easy money. And I think it's Pomp or somebody who says, you know, as a smart business, you're going to negotiate with the dumbest person in the room because you're going to get the most out of them. And the government's always the dumbest person in the room. You know?
I think I might be cutting up this video later on. Is it okay if just that little soundbite makes it all over Twitter? The government might be the dumbest person in the room.
Just shout us out. Just make sure you shout us out. So what kind of, like, as far as your business, Seth, how are you affected by the COVID so far?
Well, I don't employ other people, right? I do contract work. I do consulting. I do freelance. I do primarily. I'm an individual contributor to my own enterprise, which is e-commerce and the consulting stuff, right? That we all do in this space.
A lot of people like that.
Yeah. I mean, and there's room for all of us too, right? I mean, like there's so many other businesses that have more, like to say more dollars and cents, right? So they need a consultant to help them figure out what to do with their budget and with their various interests where they don't have a specialist on staff. So I get there's a need, and we can all fill that, especially in the cryptocurrency space, right? As we're getting into adoption, utilization, e-commerce in particular. I'm very focused on that at the moment, but and getting cryptocurrency integrated with e-commerce providers. But yeah, I don't employ like 15 other people. I don't have 8 brick and mortar locations. I don't have to worry about that, thank goodness. But to your point, profiling these companies that are getting these bailouts, this money, these loans. Justin Sun got one of these loans. I mean, the rumor is he got $2 million.
Yeah.
Right. But it's, with it, when Yang was talking about the UBI, and his solution was like, just screw it, just give it to everybody. And I was like, well, some people don't need it, and that's right. But the approach he was taking, I agree with, which was the more complexity you lay onto it, the more screw up there is. It's like anything. And with this PP, they, instead of making it sort of simple, setting a low cap or just giving money directly to people and letting sort of the markets work or whatever, they set up all these loopholes and different triages on how colleges have to deal with it and how certain businesses can get it. And you're not checking the unemployment. You got people, at least here in Michigan, who, self-employed. Maybe they were making $30,000 a year on their own, but since nobody's checking anything, they're putting down, I make $300,000 a year and getting $2,000, every 2 weeks in unemployment checks because they made
right, they never had it so good.
They can't check it, right? So yeah, it's crazy.
It's funny for my part. I don't know. Maybe again, when you guys started talking about some of the misinformation surrounding COVID and how it is affecting the financial sector, or the economy, right? Everybody's it's become clear that the health threat, sure, it's real. We see real people really dying. There's real suffering. There's no doubt about that. But it's also probably true that it's not as bad as we all thought. And so here we are, kind of holding the crumbling remains of our financial interest and saying, okay, how do we get back to work now? How would we even jumpstart everything from this point?
Yeah, so I think, me personally, Seth, I think that we probably have around 20 times more cases than is being reported here. Okay. That's, where are we at right now, Nate? 1.5 million in the United States, I think. So
yeah, I don't know the numbers.
15, but... so 30 million. I think 20x would be 30 million people probably have it, in my opinion. That's 20x. That's a lot more than what we are stating right now. Yeah. So I think we still got a long way to go, though, as far as if go ahead, Nate.
I was gonna say, as a business, I know I've done consulting work, and this is why I look at how the reporting is done. I know, people sort of pay me to be the asshole, and find where the problems are and whatnot.
Right. It's better to outsource
and the
that.
downside, right. But the problem that you might realize, and this is how I apply it to the COVID thing, is a lot of people come and I'll find ways to prevent it. Something that's bad happening, so nothing bad happens. And so they're like, oh man, it wasn't even that bad. So they fired me for that time because I did my job, right?
Right.
And it's the same thing with all of them. Not to say there isn't overhype. I think, like everything, you had two extremes of this whole COVID thing. There was no need to stockpile on 20,000 rolls of toilet paper, but there definitely wasn't a reason not to be precautious on it. I personally, I just watched what was happening in China. I was out the country in January. I got back in January. Glad I got back right where I did, and seeing how it was going, it was just starting to hit Italy. I was like, well, if it gets here, I'm gonna start preparing. I just prepped smart. I didn't hoard. I didn't need to stockpile. I'd make sure I had some extra canned food. I had water just in case. Withdrew a little bit of cash just in case. I had a bunch of just in case, but no panic level, nothing. And then
well, I think it was largely true of people in crypto, people who have really been involved in crypto, that most of us saw a bit more of the forecast more clearly, because we have our eyes on China. We have our eyes on some of these other international markets. Absolutely. So it's not me saying that I doubt that there's a real problem.
All media outlets, right? We're not watching, because you got to remember, this is another thing, Nate, that happened. All right. The media flip-flop. So the liberal media at first was like, it's not that bad. Yeah, Trump is overreacting. He's a xenophobic. He's shutting down China flights. Why is he doing that? Da, 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 da. And now, so to Trump too, now he's flip-flop. Now he's like, oh yeah, churches, go ahead and worship this weekend and do this. And now the Democrats are like, no, we need to keep it down. Like you said, they're going to just play whatever opposite side their counterparts are. It's just crazy.
And just keeping your eye on the ball.
Conspiracy theory. I can be the weirdo that wears the tinfoil hat for your episode. Conspiracy theory. What if, just hear me out. What if this whole call to bring people back to church is a play at eugenics? What if they're just trying to get rid of people of faith?
It'd be a good job. Let's talk about that now, Seth, because that's one of the topics this evening. Out of Zero Hedge, CDC rushes out pandemic guidance for religious worship after surprise Trump announcement. So again, you know how Trump does, shoots from the hip. He's some conference like, I want everyone to just go out and worship this weekend. All right, well, he didn't have that actually planned.
Yeah.
So now the CDC has to rush out with guidelines on how people should handle this. And let's look at this guideline, people. Here are the recommendations. Number 1, encouraging staff and congregants to wash their hands with soap and water, providing hand sanitizers, no touch trash cans, encouraging the use of cloth masks, suspending or at least decreasing the use of choir, musical ensembles, and congregant singing, chanting, or reciting during services. Daily disinfections, social distancing. How do you social distance in the church? Limiting the sharing of objects such as books and hymns. Okay, most people probably, I guess, are looking at the Bible on the phone nowadays. Identify an area to quarantine people with COVID-19 symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
What? If someone in the congregation is diagnosed with COVID-19, perform contact trace. Come on, man. People, these churches, Nate, the church on 7 Mile ain't gonna do half of none of this stuff.
No, but that's another example of the sort of inefficiency of government, right? It's like the CDC has to respond to what the president says because they're under
politically
purview.
Yeah. Right.
And so it's like, really, they could have just put out the exact same warnings they've been putting out, but now their boss was like, give me some guidelines for church. It's like, it's really the same guidelines for like a grocery store or any place else.
Right.
But now I got to make this church one, and it causes more confusion, and it causes some people thinking there's a conspiracy theory, which, again, may or may not be a conspiracy theory. But the real conspiracy, in my view, is you have to really look at what are they doing that nobody talks about. You can subscribe to with the Library of Congress and get a list of every bill the House and the Senate works on, brings to the floor, passes, and all that. People don't talk about most of those. They'll send it to your email every day. It's not secret as people think it is. And then you'll start.
Do they print an abstract though? I'm wondering. I mean, if I got that sent to me, I don't know if I have enough breath left in me, enough minutes left of life to read through every one of the bills that's written.
You're going to have places who will sort of put guidance and things together. I don't read through them all. You can usually tell by the name. So when you see something that sounds really kind and appealing, something they might call like the CARES Act or the Patriot Act, right? Those are the ones I eyeball real quick, and they're not hard to read. They're not. It's harder to read. I have a background in reading contracts and whatnot. Trust me, the contracts, a standard real estate contract is way harder to read than an actual law, right? You read the law, and it's one of the reasons we have so many problems with it. They're ill-worded, but they're really sort of simple to follow. And you can just pick out in a few lines, like, all right, this is some BS. And that's really where they're pushing the agendas they really want. While we're fighting over whether or not we should be in church or not, or whether the CDC's guidelines or should be whatever, they're working on ways to, take away privacy, take away, security, and have more access.
Sure.
Hey, Nate.
Well, all the nanny state wish list is being inserted into some of those bills. I'm aware of that. The push to end encryption, the push to grab guns, for example. I mean, without going too far that direction, I don't think you guys are trying to have a completely political show today, but it does seem obvious that a lot of those pet causes that the statists would love to have, the people who identify, nobody actually calls themselves a statist. That's the thing. But people who are statists, right, by definition, who just want to try to enforce their own version of the rule of law and not get much resistance, they're trying to push all those little things into law while everybody's thinking like, I just want to try to pay rent.
If I may ask, Seth, what kind of what's your political stance? Do you lean more toward the right or left, or what? You kind of independent, in the middle, moderate, what? Crypto bringing us all together, we all fall somewhere on a libertarian spectrum. If I had to guess, all of us, we hold some quasi-libertarian views. I'm not full ANCAP, but I guess I lean right just a little bit, just the tiniest bit. Yeah. That said, though, I mean, definitely socially liberal. I don't care, right? I'm more of a Ron Paulite, right? I'm a realist. We've got to work with the system. It's very broken, but we've got to work with the system. And we can dream about letting lesbian couples defend their marijuana farms with fully automatic rifles all we want. Just might not happen.
Yeah. I'll push back on the libertarian aspect just a little bit. Yeah, what made me fall in love with blockchain was we were doing, here in Detroit, we had a vet, Kennard, who's moved out to California now. Yeah. He's started a lot of this stuff. that we got going on out here.
Yep.
We had a hack night, and we had 2 different ones, 2 different weeks. In week 1, it was this couple came. I think they were from Colorado or something in that region. They're coming through from Canada, and we were talking, and these guys were like, or at least the husband was like a hardcore free market, like abolish every last regulation, self-freedom, libertarian type. He was that, and all into blockchain. This is the answer. And then a week later, we did another thing about food, how to have clean food and whatnot. And the guest speaker there was a hardcore, self-proclaimed socialist, like to the furthest extreme opposite. But blockchain was the answer for everything with this guy. And that's what made me like, I'm like, wow, like I thought the libertarian thing at first too, but, and I'm sure I know that's where it started, but it's grown so much out of that now, where it's like people who are absolutely on the opposite side of the spectrum both view like, all right, this is the technology that can sort of set us where we need to be.
Yeah,
and that to me speaks
you
power.
bring up a great point. And Seth, you can jump in and chime in on this, but I know when I started in crypto, it was heavily libertarian based. It has gotten far. Seth, would you agree that the crypto blockchain has gotten very far from the libertarian movement? What do you think?
It definitely has. It definitely has. At the same time, you have in some of Satoshi's earliest writings, right, in some of the listservs and stuff, where he just says, he predicted that it would appeal early on to people of a libertarian bent. Yeah. And I mean, now even libertarianism as such, you can't just say, like, yeah, this person's a libertarian, because they might not vote for a libertarian candidate at all, right? They might be saying, like, no, Yang has some good ideas. I might vote for this guy, right? I might take this guy seriously. Or look at him and say, no, he's too much like Bernie. He's like a young Asian Bernie. I don't believe, I don't think he's done the math, or whatever the reasons are. So, yeah. And then what was mentioned before, some people who are so extreme with capitalism, there's a name for that within libertarianism, anarcho-capitalist. Right. So ANCAP. Yep. And so you have this spectrum now where you can't even just say libertarian anymore. You kind of have to qualify it. So when you guys ask me, like, hey, what are your politics? So I've got to tell you, I guess I lean a little right of center. In terms of my own personal fiscal beliefs, I think we should probably try to have some fiscal policy that doesn't let the money printer machine, go off the rails. But yeah. But that's why I brought up Ron Paul. He was a guy who ran as a Republican because he knew that even with libertarian ideals, there was no chance of him getting on the ballot.
That's very true. It's funny. I just watched this morning, Seth, rewatched the interview that Pat Bett did with Ron Paul on Valuetainment. I don't know if you checked that one out.
I don't know. No, I didn't see that, but that's got to be great.
Yeah, definitely was, man. Well, Seth, appreciate the call in as always, and go ahead and use that clip, man. Whichever piece.
Oh, you guys are dropping gold nuggets left and right tonight. Thanks for having me on.
All right, man. Stay safe. Let's get my man Script in here real quick. Script, what's going on, brother?
What's up? Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
All right, so I just wanted to comment a couple of things. Did you guys talk about the DeFi Ethereum at all yet?
No, not yet. We hadn't touched on Ethereum yet. We got a ETH 2.0 subject that we can kind of roll into from this.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what you're talking about, though.
Okay, so basically to give you a little bit of my perspective and beliefs about, I believe that worshiping God and living as a Christian in the United States of America is one of the basic foundations of American history to be able to worship God and not shut it down, no matter what. Because if you're a Christian, you believe that, hey, America hasn't been acting right. America's been doing this. America's been doing that. A lot of corruption. Majority of Christians believe that pestilence and famine and war of nations are basically an act of judge God being able to allow another country to conquer another country because that country that believes in God forsook God. So you got these hornets coming through. You have COVID-19 coming in, and I guarantee you, as crazy as it sounds, I guarantee you, someone told that to Trump and said, "Hey, these guys need to be essential. You need to get these guys to worship God because that's what we were based on originally, being able freedom to worship God." So, but it really, we only saw in Missouri, because I'm in Missouri, we only saw a third of capacity of the churches come in. So it wasn't even, everybody come on and let's gather around and, and do our thing. It's still a cautionary period. I mean, we're still respecting the fact that COVID-19 is there. Yeah. We're not doing it ignorantly either. So that's all I have on that. I just think it's one of our absolute rights.
Even if it's going to cause the spread of the virus to persist and even grow, possibly. You would say that?
Well, one of the things about, I wouldn't say that exactly, because if I say it like that, cut and dry, then it just sounds bad, because people in ministry need other people, and we all need to take precautions. We all need to do our part, right? Whatever extremes we need to prepare ourselves for in the ministry, because you do have to visit people, comfort people, disciple people, teach people, build people up, edify them, and give them encouragement. But you're not going to see that on Zoom. You're not going to see that kind of relationship.
I hear you.
That they need it because they're broken.
The thing is, I'm not religious, man, anymore, at least, but I do understand the necessity for religion for people, man. I mean, this world it's crazy, and you need that solace, you need that sense of healing, right? Sometimes I understand that. My thing is, bro, if it's going to spread or continue to spread, at least in the African American community, I don't know how other cultures do with their churches, man. We sing and we get to going. We get to dancing and all that stuff in some denominations. I'm not going to broad stroke every black Christian church, but yeah. So, and when you congregate in the atrium and you hugging Miss Williams and Sister Williams and all that. So I just don't know if that's a great combination.
No.
So if the thing is,
that far, blood. If it gets that far, it's up to that denomination, that church, that entity to shut that thing down and stop it. We're not blindly going into this. We're slowly creeping up into it. But none of our members are affected. None of our people that we know of and families are affected. None of their families' friends affected. We haven't seen the direct impact like some people have. But I guarantee you, from my church, all right, for Old Paths Baptist Church, Missouri, we are taking all the necessary precautions in this COVID-19 pandemic.
And maybe the onus has to be put on the church organization to bear that responsibility. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Maybe we do leave it up to them and let them bear that responsibility of doing it right, like your church is doing. I don't know. I don't trust them. I don't trust them to do that.
Well, you don't want to automatically take. We were talking about, or you guys were talking about, libertarian. You don't want to take anybody's liberties away when it comes.
Right.
It's kind of like you don't want to discriminate because of their skin color.
Right.
One of the basic freedoms that we have, but he's we're not full blown into this. There's a lot of people that are staying home because they don't feel comfortable, or we just can't have the people over there because it's not full capacity released yet. We can't just go. It's not like a Joel Osteen church where it has to be filled to the max so everybody can donate their money to a one man. You know what I mean? So you can have a mansion like that. And I'm not tearing that church down at all, but that's in Texas. If Texas has got problems, you don't want to be having Joel Osteen's church full blown if they're having major spread issues. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So Nick, Aircoins League brings, and I want to get your feedback on that, Nate. But I want to say this: Aircoins League, one of my YouTube members, said that Walmart has been a COVID convention since lockdown. I would say this about like public places where you go to shop and get groceries and stuff. It's slight, in my opinion, just my opinion, it's slightly different than a church. A church, you're typically there hour, 2 hours, and you're sitting there, and you know what I'm saying? It's a concentration of people sitting there, singing, talking to each other. It's more of a social experience, right? It's not like so much like if you're going to the grocery store, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. So we do have to, in my opinion, we got to take this a little differently. Nate, what are your thoughts on opening up the churches?
You know, again, I think you have to look more at a macro scheme, and you look at like what China did. You know, it was a church, I think it was in South Korea, that caused a huge outbreak there.
That was the cause of the whole outbreak. Yeah.
But you know, you don't have to narrow it down to a church thing. I don't feel like people talk about like the right religion, and it's not that I disagree with anything Script said, but you know, they didn't take away people's right to religion. They just shut down everything, and that was just sort of included into it. Mm-hmm. And the approach America has to take, which is, you know, it's like that freedom of speech. You got to take the good with the bad. China can just lock everybody down and deliver them food. Italy can lock everybody down and, you know, pretty much deliver them food. Almost every country can pretty much just lock their country down. With the exception of like China, most countries that have done serious lockdowns, you know, they're the size of a state here.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we're like 50 times bigger geographically. Mm-hmm. Than all of them. So it becomes logistically way harder to shut things down. And then, like, I've seen people in the chat sort of pointing out with, you know, Walmart. You're right, it's different. It's different when you're walking around. You might walk through a cloud of floating COVID or whatever, but it's different than sitting in a room festering in it, right?
Yeah.
I just think we have to look at like what's the best way to sort of do it all, and I don't think there's a best way, and I definitely don't think we've hit the best way.
No, and I think that's being Pollyanna to think that we could have a policy where it fulfills everyone and everyone's happy. It won't happen.
It's not even about happy, it's about effectiveness, right? And the only thing you could maybe do effective is lock everybody down, but that's just not
going to happen here in America.
Humanly possible in America. It will never happen.
No.
At least won't happen, you know, now. So that brings up the debate now. So whose responsibility is it when it comes to whether you're talking about church or a Walmart or anything? You know, the problem with COVID is it's people can come in and everybody can check out clear and have no conditions, but 10 of them can be asymptomatic.
Yep.
And so it's an after the fact. And now they leave church or whatever organization 2 weeks later, and they done infected a whole bunch of other people.
That's the
at the
problem.
church, and then they done spread it. And
that's
so
my concern.
If you have a government, as a government, right, you have to sort of weigh that option out. Like, all right, what's more important, giving Script the right to go to a place of worship and do his thing as a free individual who can take that risk, or do I have to look out for the people who didn't ask for that may get infected later? And it's a tough call, you know what I mean? It's like somebody's liberty is going to get sort of trampled on.
Can I comment on that?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, so hey, nice to meet you, man.
Yeah, you too, bro. You too.
What's up, man? First time hearing you.
Yeah.
Love Crypto Blood's channel, by the way. I mean,
yeah, he's the best.
But so I mean, you know, where it started was we took the necessary precautions of 10 people in a room. So what we did when we first started, for about a month and a week now, for our church, we recommended all the people that actually physically went to the building, right, to break off in teams, like Alpha Team, Bravo Team, Charlie Team. That's just how we did it. And nice. We all tend to a house. And so that's how we did it for a month and a week. And so we just rotated. Our teams went to the church. it was still under that number. You see, we were still segregating ourselves to the lowest denominator so we can filter back and forth, because we all need fellowship. We all need that companionship, so we just don't get scattered, right? But but you were saying that having freedom to do what we want, it's not like we're trying to do or break the rules or go beyond like what we say is right. But the thing is ultimately it's a higher leadership call to even say, okay, we decided to have churches to be a third of capacity and call it essential. Just like it's essential to go to Walmart and buy, medicine or food. You're going to come in contact with someone or something like COVID-19, regardless of where you decide to walk and talk. You know what I mean? If it's going to happen, and regardless, it's not going to be pretty because it's COVID-19, right? I mean, if you get it, and that's just end of story. And it's ultimately that person's responsibility to take action and not be a dimwit and try to touch everybody in the world. Like, I seen people on I forgot what it was. Someone was purposely coughing on a lady, and it was just uncalled for. I mean, an old man walked up to this young black chick and just started coughing and being all crazy, dude. I mean, what kind of childish behavior is that from a 50-year-old man? You know what I mean?
Right. Well, I used to do a lot of work I still do some work with them in schools, right? Now I was pretty low key rebellious in my days. But when you have as a leadership position in the school, right? And so you have a bunch of kids that you might be responsible for. And so you have to set down these sort of draconian rules. And one of the kids will come up to you who is responsible and can handle things, like, but I'm not going to do that. It's like, yeah, I know, I trust you, right, as an individual. And it comes down to like what you guys said you were doing in your church. It's like, all right, I'm going to go off of good faith and say you guys did everything the best way possible and probably were extremely safe. But the problem is, if I let you do it, I have to let everybody do it. And now I have to worry about all these millions of people who aren't as responsible as you. And now it's chaos, right? And so again, I sympathize with some of the leaders and the governors who had to make these calls, because it's a tough call. I can't pick and choose and be like, all right, I know you, so your church is going to be fine, but you guys over there, you guys are reckless. You can't get together. You know what I mean? You
can't. That is a scenario. One spoils it for all. Yeah. So you're going to have script and like I said, this is Crypto Diamond speaking now, people. This is Crypto Diamond speaking. You're going to have, once these churches start opening up, you're going to have breakouts. It just is what it is. And because of the nature of the virus, it's very transmissible. It's very viral. So you're going to have that happen just because of the nature of congregating in a church spiritual type of environment.
Blood, what about maybe... See, listen, I live in Missouri, and the death toll and
you're low. You guys don't have much.
Yeah, and I the thing is like, I feel like it's well deserved a little bit just to have some kind of togetherness. Maybe not full capacity, but a little bit of and because we were only there for an hour, you know what I mean? And none of us were really touching ourselves and hugging everybody.
Okay, let me ask you this though, Script, because you were as someone else in my comments that we were talking. I think they were on Twitter or either on Facebook. I can't remember if it was on YouTube or Twitter. But he's like, "Yo, like it's not even that bad." I'm like, he's like, "My wife works in the hospitals and it's not even that bad." I'm like, "Okay, so for context, I asked him where are you at." He's like, "Missouri." So then I looked at Missouri. Y'all barely got any deaths. So right. Yeah, like in your situation, it's not a problem. You know what I'm saying? Here, as what Nate kind of chimed in on, for us to open up all churches, now you're going to have churches here in Detroit where it is a problem. They're going to go to church. They're going to go to places of worship, and it's going to spread like a wildfire.
And let me tell you about churches here real quick, Script, is there's one street you can go down, and within it's about a half mile. There's about 27 churches in one half mile urban street.
And
So-
they're not looking at the CDC, bro. I'm just letting you know. They're not checking the CDC. It's just, they're not checking the CDC, bro.
It's tough, man. I
It's
agree.
tough.
I agree with what you're
It's
saying.
tough. And I'm not saying I got the solution.
Yeah,
Script,
it's not
I'm
that
not
you're
saying
wrong. It's not that you're wrong. It's just you got to look at all the equations. Like, all right, you might not be wrong, but
I agree. The leadership has to really look at the chart, so to speak, and say, okay, well, this place has it a little bit worse than everyone else, or this place and that place. Maybe we should hang tight. But people were really getting upset when people were going through phase 1 into phase 2, when people were extended in early phase 1 for 3 more months. People were really getting upset. And I think that caused division in America.
Yeah, we just extended here in Michigan till what, Nate?
12th or something.
June 12th. So we just did another extension.
What's funny to me? What's funny to me, just on a lighthearted thing of all that, it keeps getting extended, and I see a lot of people being mad. But this is Michigan. We're home of like the Michigan militia. Like Michigan's like a prepper state.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was a little confusing to me because if I was a prepper, I don't think this is my time. And they're like the loudest ones, like, let me back out. I was like, I thought you've been prepping for this for years.
It's human nature, bro. We prep and we prepare for so long when the thing we prepare for hits us, we act, it's just we don't believe it's here. It's crazy. Script, stay on the line, bro. I want you to chime in on some other stuff. We got another caller. Let's get this caller here, Nate. Who's calling in today? Thanks for joining.
It's Rob.
Rob, what's going on, brother?
Not much. How you guys doing?
Good.
Right.
How you hanging? You hanging in there, man?
I'm good. My test came back. I'm negative.
Okay, good, guys. I had
So
Rob on. I had Rob on for a kicking it session. You guys will see in about a week or so. I'm behind on all my kicking it sessions, so you'll see Rob. We had a very good conversation. So I'm glad that you came back negative.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, remember South Korea? The one main breakout they handled it pretty well, but they had a big breakout in the church.
Yep.
Right.
That was their main problem. Oh, you already talked about that? Sorry, I was doing some other stuff.
All good. We mentioned that. Nate mentioned that was the epicenter of South Korea's breakout was the church. The one lady spread it to, I think, 1,500 people.
Yeah, it was a lot.
It was a lot. So, and it's a touchy situation, Rob. I understand that, man.
Yeah.
Religion is a very core part of many people's lives. It's the main factor for their decision making for their whole lives and what they want to do.
But when it comes to the church, though, you got a lot. Part of the problem I hear with people in church and the attitude of the church is, listen, it's in God's hands. If I'm going to go, I'm going to go. So they don't believe in like wearing masks. I'm not saying this is all church people or all religions, but that's a lot. So there is some church people out there that believe that. So then
you're absolutely gonna have that,
problem.
Bro. Oh my God, you're gonna have that.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it all just on the church either. I mean, I was at the
I
was at the store the other day. I was at the store yesterday. I had my mask on, and there was a lady in there. She ain't have her mask on, and some other guy was like, "Oh, come on, baby girl, where your mask at?" She like, "Shoot, if you're gonna die sometime, so it is what it is." But I looked down, and she's strapped. She got a gun. And I'm like, well, girl, I thought if it's just the contradictions there. Like, all right, what you strapped for then?
What are you strapped for? Right? Why you got to strap if you just go? That's human nature, man.
I have a question for the guest. I'm sorry, I didn't catch his name. I missed the beginning of the show. Nate.
No problem.
So how many people in your family or that you know that died of the flu or that have had the flu over the last 5 years?
I don't personally know anybody who died of a flu ever.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is the problem with this situation. Like, we got the flu numbers, and like you said, Crypto Blood, I don't know when you reported that, but they talked about they just estimate the flu numbers.
Right. So this is a critical point, guys, that the flu, I didn't even know this. The flu numbers that come from the CDC which is this is the funny thing that I have arguments online with people all the time. They tell me, CB, the flu kills more people than this virus. The flu is worse than the virus, but the COVID numbers are fake. I said, well, the very numbers you're referencing for the flu came from the CDC. So you're telling me that the flu numbers are what they are from the CDC, but the COVID numbers from the CDC are fake.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
It's a classic anti-science thing. You know, you're going to use science. Science is lying. It's like, well, they're lying about the drugs, but they're right about, you know, electrons and making your phone work. So. Yeah. So you're right. So yeah, I didn't know this. The flu numbers are actually estimates, guys. They're not real they're not real hard count numbers. They're estimates every year, and I do think they overinflate this is the study came out to show that the true death rate for flu is like 15,000 a year. They overinflate all these numbers so that they do make money off the vaccines that they have trying to push everyone to take. And I would point out there isn't the flu. This is why the flu vaccines don't always work. They find what they think is going to be the most likely flu, and then give you the vaccine, but there could be a dozen other ones floating out there. And if you get one of those, you hit. Yeah, versus this is the best. You know what I mean?
It's the best guess of the strain they think is going to happen for this flu season. Right. So that's what they're giving you the vaccination for. Yes. So I mean, like, you got to start talk. So if we're going to talk about numbers and all these things, and then you got the excessive death total, which would lean towards the numbers of COVID people dying being more true than not true, right? And then, like, for me personally, I don't know anybody that's died from the flu. I don't know. I mean, in my family, we probably totaled out of the 5 of us, we've had the flu in the last 5 years, maybe 3 times. So, but what I do know is I know people that had COVID. I know people that died from COVID. So, but that's real. That's real. You know what I mean? So, like, we're talking about all this stuff and you know, and like what's going on, all of a sudden Russia out of blue is second. And well, we know why Brazil is third, because they're just not doing anything. But why is it like Russia had a delay? Because if they're bordered to China, you'd think they would have been, from the beginning, they would have been one with the highest numbers. But now all of a sudden there's a delay. I mean, there's a lot of things going on that we're not even, you know, we're not even considering this stuff. So there's strange things going on. We really don't, and it's a new virus. We don't know any of this stuff. And we're talking about the opening up. I mean, let's say it's not a backwards looking thing. It's a forward looking thing. What happens today, we're going to know what the result 5 weeks from now.
Yeah.
So,
I think you're sort of hitting on a key point. You know, I'm going to swing things back to blockchain. We don't know. And that's the problem. We're now living in a world where we have to put so much trust, and the incentives are so misaligned that you can't trust the people we've sort of, you know, set aside to tell us the truth on things, because they're not incentivized to tell us the truth. And that's where the transparency, and, you know, it's not that blockchain it's not a fix-all. You know, blockchain is not going to cure COVID. But when you start to look at data, a lot of this information stuff happens because we don't have a trusted source of data. It's not transparent, it's not clear, and we don't know. And, you know, the mantra of don't trust, verify, you know, you rephrase
there you go.
Reagan, and I don't want to trust anything. I just want to be able to verify. I want to see every time there's a flu or any kind of death. You can put that into something that's immutable. And now I just know this is the thing. It's not just how some statistician decides to frame the data. Because I do data analysis. You know.
Shout out to my man Brian Jones. He asked the question, "Do I trust Fauci?" No, absolutely not. I mean, how can you trust a guy that was
You've been in it for 30 years or something.
Yeah. He's deep state. Okay, so when you got a guy like Fauci around for this long, he's deep state. No, I don't trust him at all. But what you have to understand, guys, it's not a black and white thing. None of this stuff is black and white. What I mean by that is, if let's say you're a Republican, right? And we know that most of the media is run by Democratic organizations, or, you know, kind of, we know that, like 90% of it, right? let's just say MSNBC says the sky is blue. Are they right? Is that a fact that the sky is blue? Yeah, the sky is blue. Like, so sources can say some things correctly or that are truths and still, you know what I'm saying? Like, we can't just write off everything someone says because he doesn't align with what we think, or we think that he's with the deep state. I think he is, but you just can't write off everything he says. Some stuff he's saying is correct.
You can get good financial advice from a bum off the street.
Yes, you can.
They're going to use the truth to manipulate things too.
Yeah, that too.
They're not just going to lie. They're not going to lie 100% of the time. They are going to use the truth when the truth helps them manipulate the situation. So you can find truths in what they say. It's just trying to get through all the crap to get to the truth.
Well, and you got to recognize that news has morphed. Again, I was huge on the fake news thing well before 2016, and I used to be a news junkie, like glued to it for decades. I'd be glued to news, and I watched it morph from being a source of information to being an opinion. News is, I mean, even when they talk about it, even when everybody talks about news, they're not talking about even whether you're talking about Fox or MSNBC. They're not even talking about the news segments where they just say this happened. Everybody's always talking about the opinion pieces. You're talking about Sean, what's his face, or Tucker
Hannity,
Sean Hannity, or Rachel Maddow.
Yep.
Which aren't news. They're opinion pieces.
Right.
You know what I mean? And newspapers don't really give news. They give opinion pieces online and stuff. Nobody has news. They just have my opinion. And so, this is where do we get information that you can, like, all right, this is reliable information. And I have my viewpoints, and they could be absolutely opposite of somebody else's viewpoints. And even I know I'm always right, I don't blame whoever's wrong. You know what I mean? Because where are you getting your information from?
Right. Where are you getting your information from? Exactly.
I've made it a trend of mine since I was like in my early 20s. Before I took a position on anything, I'll hear something, whether I agree or disagree, and then I'll go find whoever argues with them the most and get their viewpoint. That's how I form my opinions. I have to hear both sides of the story and sort of research both ends, because, you know, I don't know who I can trust. So I can't trust any of them.
That's why, did you watch, Crypto Blow, you watch Chris Mortensen, the Peak Prosperity guy?
Oh, every day. I've been watching Chris Mortensen before the virus thing. And so when he got into the virus, covering that, I was like, oh man, this is great content right here.
Yeah. And he don't care about left, right, center, middle. Like, he just tells it how it is, you know? And
that's why I like him.
You see that thing that's why I watch him, try and watch him as much as I can. But you know, it's like the what's the drug that Trump was touting?
HCQ.
I can't. Yeah, that drug, and they were, you know, they're bashing it, but the bashing only started after Trump started touting it. Right?
Yeah, we talked about that earlier. Yep.
I missed all the good stuff.
Yeah, no, all good, man.
Know?
Yep, they didn't. I swear, man. And Chris Mortensen, guys, he went through. He literally, I love his research. He does such a great job. He went through and went back and went through the web, the time machine on the web archive, and looked at all the information on hydrochloroquine before this pandemic. And there were none of this news about heart attacks and it's the worst thing ever, and none of this. Matter of fact, it showed that aspirin had a higher fatality rate than hydrochloroquine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's crazy, man.
The Remdesivir or whatever, that the Gilead drug or whatever, they're talking about that, and like the actual information and studies were saying it wasn't doing much. It wasn't helping hardly at all.
Yeah, but the pieces they write, like Nate says, the opinion pieces they write, Remdesivir looks like it's gonna do well. Oh, let me go look at how much Remdesivir costs. Oh, $1,000 a pill. Oh, exactly. Right, that makes sense.
Exactly.
Well, man, thanks for the call in, Rob. I'm going to be posting that next week sometime, man. A really good kicking the session. You guys look out for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Hey, good night, guys.
All right. Later. So let's get 10 Pound in here really quickly. 10 Pound, what's good with you, man?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good, bro. What about you? How you
good,
doing?
Man. Good.
Also, I have been in a zone where like this whole pandemic thing has been like thrown to the back burner. I'll be real with you, like, but it's good that people are still staying awake, staying vigilant, and they're trying to protect their communities, and I feel like that's what the whole church outbreak nonsense and the whole church meaning to be essential, declaration of essentiality is all about. Like these people, they see it as a business. Some people, they want just to get back to business as usual. It's not just the churches entirely, but the churches definitely want this to happen. So how do you guys feel about that? Like the idea of like churches being essential?
I think people's ability to relate with whatever it is that gives them peace, whether it's religion or whatever, is essential because that's how people stay sane.
Yep.
Even essential can be subjective. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
if I was in charge, I would say like, all right, essential means will not having this kill you?
Right.
And that's what I would call essential, right?
Right.
So most of the stuff that's been open, I don't know where you are, but in Detroit, even when they lock things down, I'd still drive around Detroit and look. I was importing some masks and stuff and giving them to some hospitals and nursing homes and whatnot. So I was driving around and looking around, like it doesn't really look like anything's shut down.
That's what I said. I said that last week. Yeah. We as Americans, we've complained about this whole lockdown thing. And even Nate, like you said, when we were on full lockdown, because we're one level up now.
Right. And this is like a weekend.
Yeah.
People still scared.
Yeah. When we're on full lockdown, people were still driving around. It was literally like not a lot of cars out, but it wasn't like tanks running around like, get back in your house.
Yeah.
You can't
like
be
we
out
saw
here.
some videos in China.
Yeah, no, that's
like
not
China, right? Like China. Yeah. So it wasn't a real lockdown, people. Yeah.
See,
but I feel, man, people are, like I said, I'm empathetic. I know how to be empathetic, and of course, know how to be sympathetic. People are losing their minds. They're losing their livelihoods as business owners, as people that work for companies. I understand all of this. There is no panacea. There is no one thing fixes it all. So You're going to have areas in the economy and in the social structure that's going to fall through the cracks. You know, and it's just how we deal with it. So to answer your question, though, 10 Pound, if I were in power, President Blood, I don't know, man.
We wouldn't even had COVID.
Nah, we would. You couldn't stop this thing. I would have locked down definitely sooner than we did. But no, we wouldn't have. You can't stop a virus that has no borders.
I mean, but that's the thing. I'm not talking about locking down though, bro. Because like, even if you lock down, like this thing is still gonna spread regardless.
It is.
But here's the thing. Here's what I was getting at: the idea of essentiality, like business wanting to continue as usual. You know what I mean? People wanting to cling on to this central banking fiat printing lie for their means of livelihood instead of actually wanting to like do something better, instead of actually moving forward with a completely different system. This idea of essentiality. Just now they can get in close with these big players, these bigger players that are pretty much running up the score, compared to these smaller players. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, that's why I had a higher standard of essential. I feel you, absolutely. There's, you take away people's livelihoods. If $1,200 isn't fixing anything for anybody, and when you look at it on a business standpoint, there's one aspect. It's like, all right, whether you got 10 employees or 10,000 employees, they all depend on that check. You know what I mean? But then I think this is the point you was trying to get at. There's also the business, like you heard the complaints about Amazon and whatnot. It was just like, all right, let's sort of crank this out. This is a good money-making opportunity. Mm-hmm. In me doing the masks, I came across a lot of people who were doing like the fake masks and doing anything just so they could make some money. And so there's this real false sense of them being essential so they can come up. And especially if you're, if you want to become financially free independently, then these are the times that happens. It's other people's despair that makes other people rich. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
the drop in real estate, that's how you get all of that. So, and I'm for people being financially free. And I learned the 2008 recession hit Detroit in like 2006. And I watched like Ford stock drop down to like $1, less than $1, and I couldn't afford to buy any of it. Right. And I said that'd never happen again.
Right.
But so I've been prepping for this time so I can take advantage of it. But taking advantage of it means you sort of are benefiting off of somebody else's loss.
Yeah.
And so sort of when you come to like, all right, what's essential and what's not essential, most of the stuff isn't essential. The question is sort of like, well, how do you approach it? Do you make everything really altruistic? That's sort of like a false world. It's like you were saying, crypto blood about a panacea and stuff.
Yeah.
How do you balance it? And that's I don't have the answer to that, but how do you balance all that where it's like, all right, how do I tell Amazon they ain't nothing for trying to come up with a money-making opportunity without saying somebody else who isn't Amazon, very much smaller business like, who was that, Seth we were talking to earlier?
Yep.
Without telling him he's the same kind of swine that Bezos is. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't know how to do that.
There is no easy way, man. I really, I don't think there's an easy way. No solution's gonna do it all for everyone. So
you mentioned
I would just, I personally though, to answer your question though, 10 Pound, I would probably have it. I would have it shut down, but maybe if I got too much pushback, maybe open up churches in areas like where Script is in Missouri, where it's less affected. Let them, open up, but with rules and regulations and making sure they kind of adhere to it. But it's tough, man. It's tough.
For sure, I get you. Hey, so Nate, you mentioned the concept of blockchain being used in this pandemic. Are you aware of what Stanford University's team rolled out as a pilot for the first application?
I saw some stuff about Stanford, but no, I don't know that I know exactly what you're talking about.
So they're literally like one of the first Ivy League schools to have an actual blockchain education class, and also professors that are well versed in building and deploying DApps, distributed applications. And they literally, I kid you not, came up with this idea called Fever IQ, where you just check in once anonymously, completely decentralized way. You report your fever, how you feeling, wherever you are, and then it just handles everything on the back end. You pay a pie, and it just records where you were and how you were feeling at that time, but it doesn't record your user identity. Only person that knows that is you, of course, and you can't see a heat map of anybody else. It's just your own little personal heat map. So it's just a way to track how you're feeling throughout your movements as you go on your daily day-to-day life, you know what I mean, in the middle of this pandemic. So do you think that that's kind of like a little bit of a solution utilized with this new wave of technology?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that one, but based on how it's applied, yeah, absolutely. That's where I look at it at. I did, when I was doing my consulting work, I consulted with some hospitals that were looking at blockchain stuff, and I talked them out of it because they were just really looking for a better way to do supply chain tracking. And I look at it as more of, you have to change the way you do business, right? But that's sort of the tip I was on is what you were describing. You can use this technology without being invasive. The thing about blockchain, again, the more you get into it, the more you become huge into a lot of things, from economics to privacy and security and everything, psychology and game theory. How do you do it without intruding on privacy? And I'm pretty sure it can be done. I don't know if the solution is out there. Maybe Stanford has that answer. I haven't seen the project yet. But yeah, I think the potential is absolutely there. So maybe they've got it. And that's the kind of thing we need for any kind of outbreak, because this is not going to be this wasn't the first pandemic. You know, this isn't.
You leave it up to some of them tinfoil hat people. It's the first one that's ever happened, and you know it's been many before, guys. Definitely.
You know, people have been warning about it. However you feel about whatever, people have been warning something else. People have been warning something else is going to come. They all thought it was going to be an influenza thing.
Right.
It ended up being a coronavirus thing.
Yeah.
But using the technology, maybe Stanford or whoever has laid down the foundations for the next level so we can start doing tracking, because we are in a position where it's like, all right, technologically, you would think we're getting to a point where we should be able to not prevent every single viral outbreak, but definitely predict it, see early patterns well earlier than we do now, and do it in a manner that's not invasive to everybody.
I agree with you. That would be but then again, you're gonna have the people that are saying that's infringing on their amendments, on their constitution.
Well, I don't know how it's not forcing. You know, I can't remember which one of the callers we were talking to earlier, but they were talking about like just crypto, being able to use crypto. And a point I try to bring up to people is about crypto in general on the finance side. Is it's an option, right? Right now we're forced to use the dollar, and we're not really even forced to use the dollar. We can use alternatives, but it all has to track back to a dollar. And crypto is an option, whether you're picking Bitcoin or you're picking Dash or whatever you're picking. It's an opt out of the system. Like, I don't want to use that system. I want to use this system. And it's the same thing when it comes to the applications. I'm not saying I don't think you should force necessarily everybody to do it. But I don't see, once people start to understand it, I don't see where a majority of people would opt out. And just like vaccines, you don't need everybody to do it. You just need a majority of people to do it, right?
Yeah, that's to create that synthetic, that artificial herd immunity. Yeah, right. I won't be taking it, people. I won't be taking it. Let me get Script's opinion on what we've been talking about here. He's been hanging in the cut. Script, what do you think about what we've been talking about?
What's up?
You want to chime in?
You hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. Did you want to chime in?
All right. Yeah. Well, you know me, and I'm part of the Did You Buy awareness team.
Yep.
And they're the Did You Buy Foundation. Rudy Bauman is involved with some of the developers from the Did You Buy wallet on Android and iOS wallet. And they are developing with also Antim-ID. And so they're developing a COVID-19 app for the Dutch in the Netherlands.
Nice.
And they're already on meeting with partnerships and the next phases to develop the app. And what it does is it uses the window interface of DigiID, Antim-ID for the DigiByte blockchain to keep individuals private. But what the app actually does is it uses the Bluetooth to warn you about your symptoms, and everyone that you come in contact privately notifying you this is what's going on. You've been in contact with COVID-19 by sharing on Bluetooth other individuals in your radiance. And it warns you, hey, look, you might want to get checked out. If you have these symptoms, call your local, whatever, and get checked in. And it's completely private. So it's not exactly...
They're doing that. They're using that same concept in another country. I don't know, Nate and 10 Pound, you know about it, but they're using the Bluetooth method instead of over the network for more of a privacy type of transmission of it. Yeah, that's a good idea, man. I love it.
That's I'm sorry. Go ahead, 10 Pound. My bad.
Oh, what? Me or Nate?
Nate.
Yeah.
I was just saying,
Nate. My bad.
I'm not all up on it like that, but I do know a couple of the Bluetooth solutions. One of the problems was if some information is being, if it can be saved somewhere, although it's anonymous now, it can sort of be de-anonymized later on by sort of tracking back, sort of starting to see some habits and whatnot. And I'm not talking about the Digibyte solution, because the ones that were doing this were non-blockchain based.
Okay.
They were tracked back using that. And I know with my history and doing just data research and whatnot, a lot of times when you try to collect anonymous information, it's anonymous while you're filling it out, but then you can sort of take some of those answers and start to, with a big enough picture, start to track back and be like, all right, this is probably this kind of person in this area and this sort of thing. And then you can grab some extra information and just sort of demask that whole anonymization that was happening. But all of those were not blockchain based. So it's based on how the encryption and whatnot is done, I guess. And this is why I said earlier, I wouldn't step into a room full of serious computer science engineers and be like, I'm a programmer. But they know how it's all demasked and whatnot.
So here's the thing, guys. Here's the absolute thing about Bluetooth. It's literally just designed to be a bridge from device to device. In fact, it was named after a king of Sweden because of the fact that, it was developed in Sweden. Plus, it was to pay homage to the idea of a bridge. So these bridges operate on IEEE, which is a standard for communications. Yeah. And that can be like de-anonymized easily. Once again, as Nate once stated. But all it is just UHF radio wave frequencies moving at 2.4 gigahertz, back and forth. And I don't think that that's anonymous at all. That traffic could be decrypted, deciphered, and literally sold to anybody, honestly. Not only that, people will hack into other people's Bluetooth devices all the time. You know what I mean?
That is one of the issues. That is one of the issues, Tim Pound, that the developers are running into with the Bluetooth technology. But they're not running into a privacy issue where people are staying anonymous because of Atom ID, where it protects your identification and your security for the app, because it just uses the Digibyte blockchain to log in with a QR code, and it secures your data from being tapped into. But what they haven't figured out yet, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people that are using Bluetooth technology to be aware of COVID-19 potentials is that exactly what you're saying, that it's a real fine line about other people being able to hack you in your radius.
Sure. And that's pretty cool. I do like the fact that, Digibyte is taking the pressures of this pandemic seriously and, trying to come up with solutions for their network. You know what I mean? That's pretty sick. I like that. But for the most part, though, bro, Bluetooth in itself, it's a very finicky system. You know what I mean? It still needs to be worked out. It's still in its iteration, early adoption phase. People still prefer using regular old wires, and they don't want to trust Bluetooth headphones. I mean, I'm using a wireless headset right now. People are still studying the effects of these frequencies. You know what I mean? So it comes down to it.
Yeah, no, that's true. Good input from all of you guys. I want to move on to the last point here, which was the Ethereum 2.0 release date set for the 11th hour has issues and they persist. What are your thoughts? I know, Nate, I think you're an Ethereum supporter and fan. What are your thoughts about Ethereum 2.0? And I've been skeptical since they announced it, and be honest with you. I said that it would take too long to come out. What are your thoughts about what's going on with Ethereum and them rolling out 2.0?
Ultimately, it's really cool right now to sort of bash Bitcoin, right? Because it's really slow to upgrade and do things, and that's sort of become the new trend. Bitcoin's failed, and I don't believe that. I think that slow movement is really the strength of it all. When you're putting so much dependent and an immutable system. This isn't traditional programming, right? Where you can just get it where it works and fix the bugs later. You put the entire financial system on something like Bitcoin's shoulders, you better move slow, and you can't go with whatever the trend is.
I agree.
And I think Ethereum is, although not vocally, and I hope they're trying to follow that model, especially because they're trying to be so much more complex than Bitcoin is. Having a Turing complete system is a whole different beast than just being able to track transactions. And so I think it's a good thing they take slow. And if it takes them 5 more years, I mean, you're talking about trying to absolutely change a system, especially when you're talking about like on the financial end, that's been in place for thousands of years. You're not going to get a bunch of redos. And Ethereum learned early with the DAO hack, and which wasn't really a hack, the DAO contract is law thing. They learned early, you got to split. And they can't afford to do that again. You can't afford to do it again as a platform. And you can't afford for something like Ethereum or Bitcoin to fail, because Ethereum was probably one of the last ones that got under the radar that before governments and things really realized what was happening. They're not, because you can't have something like one of these platforms fail and just relaunch. Government's going to stop it this time around. Up on game. And so I think it's good Ethereum sort of taking a longer approach to get it right. Now, whether or not they'll ever come out, I do like Ethereum. I like the support. They got a lot of development support and whatnot. They haven't, because they're looking for a bigger stride, something like Bitcoin has sort of proven itself, especially because of this pandemic to me and how it's handled. Ethereum still has some proof to do that it's going to work.
But is it proper to even compare Ethereum to Bitcoin?
Yeah, it is. Crypto blood.
You think so?
I absolutely do. Here's the thing.
Oh, man.
Okay, only reason why some people would not compare Bitcoin to Ethereum is because Ethereum has its own IDE. It's got, 2 languages built underneath its protocol. Meanwhile, of course, Bitcoin is just running on standard C++. So, here's the thing. Whenever you have decentralized finance utilized in the form factor of, a smart contract, it's far more complex than Bitcoin, but it's still operating on the same proof of work mechanism. The only difference between the proof of work mechanism is that one is ASIC resistant and one isn't. And of course, Bitcoin is the one that isn't ASIC resistant. Now, when it comes down to Ethereum moving slower than usual, that's actually a detriment to them as a network because of Ice Age, something that Vitalik Buterin and his comrades actually decided to implement onto the network to encourage change.
Exactly.
Right. So,
but the thing is, why I ask is whether or not we're comparing apples to oranges is because we're talking about a Turing complete blockchain and a non-Turing complete blockchain. I would compare Ethereum to more Tezos, EOS, those types of blockchains. That's where I would compare Ethereum to.
You're comparing the projects that are modeling themselves after Ethereum. You know what I mean? So and some of these projects actually forked off the basis of an ERC. So
what I'm saying is, and I'll let you chime in here in a second, Nate. What I'm saying is, isn't there a competitive advantage to those blockchains because they're coming out the gate scaled and able to build on top of that versus trying to you take a Bitcoin, which I think we've lost that race. I don't think we're going to be able to get Bitcoin to scale to the capacity that we once thought it was going to be used as money. You got these side chain, Lightning. I'm not a fan of Lightning Network. I think it actually makes it more centralized, but that's a whole nother conversation. So you think that you can compare, Nate, Bitcoin and Ethereum?
Yeah, because they both have one ultimate goal: censorship resistance. That's really what this is all about. You know what I mean? How can I have something that other people can't take away on a whim? And so they're built around the same foundation. They serve 2 different purposes, absolutely. Okay. But they're built on the same foundation of how do we build a protocol for something, to build on something or use something that other people can't take away just because they want to, right? And so Ethereum is built off of that. And yeah, just like Tim Pound said, all the platforms you named saw Ethereum and said, we can do that better.
Mm-hmm.
The edge Ethereum has is the same edge Bitcoin has over every other cryptocurrency. It's time. Ethereum's had enough time. There's enough money in these market caps. It's economically worth it to break it if you can and take advantage of that break. And none of the other platforms have the number of projects built upon it to find exploitations in code that would really show their weakness. They might seem better. They might on paper have higher transactions per second and everything else, but they're not, time is really the only test you really have with an immutable open type blockchain. So again, whether or not Ethereum will be it, maybe somebody like Tezos or something will come along and have the answer. The holdback, the drawback Ethereum has is it's too big of a beast. You know what I mean? It's going to take longer for it to react, where Tezos can find something, react, flip, and be back.
And so that's exactly my concern, Nate, is that I think eventually they will, upgrade to 2.0. I'm just concerned that from a competitive advantage, they have that lead right now, but I think to upgrade and actually go live with 2.0 is going to take another year and a half, 2 years.
It could, but people have been saying the same thing about Microsoft forever. You know what I mean? And Microsoft, as far as a PC game, they've held it down and they move slow and are full of bugs and they're far from the best or even
but yes, I would say you're right. But comparing Microsoft and Windows to Ethereum, I would say Microsoft actually hit critical mass to actually have that. No one's using blockchain yet.
Right.
If you really think about it, right? In the grand scope of things, right? No one's really using blockchain.
Right.
So,
but the ones who are using Ethereum.
They are. But what I'm saying is we haven't hit critical mass yet to say that, okay, because they are the top dog in Turing complete networks or blockchain, then it's all good. They've secured their position and it's just going to be all good.
I don't know that's secured. The question is it better that they take time or is it better that they speed it up?
It's definitely better.
It's definitely better that they take time.
I agree.
And maybe they lose because of it, but it's much better to lose to another platform that ends up finding it than rushing it out, having billions or $1 trillion built on it that can easily be swiped.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Script, what's your thought on that whole ETH movement to 2.0? Do you think it's going to happen, or do you think it's going to happen in a timely fashion more so?
It's going to happen. It's just, I think that the baseline for the staking and sharding, coming from proof of work, all that's going to go slow. First of all, you got to make sure staking works. So it's going to take a year. It's going to come out in the beginning of August. It's going to take a year to make sure that's stable. Yep. And then I was listening to a developer that highly relies on Ethereum for dApps and programs on it. His name is Hashoshi or something like that.
Just had him on. Just had him on for a kicking the session. Yep.
Okay, so you know who I'm talking about, right?
Absolutely.
So he absolutely sees the end of 2021 is where you actually start seeing bits and pieces starting to be actually built and used.
Yep. Is that too late? But is that too late, man? We got competitors, man. They're on the heels of Ethereum, man, and in business.
But they're learning from Ethereum.
You wait that long.
Well, they do have a competitive edge. Ethereum was first, and you got all these ERC tokens that are also competing, but you got to realize they're on the Ethereum blockchain. Mm-hmm. So they're going to have to adapt with Ethereum. But like I heard Hashoshi talk about kind of like Tron, the comparison with Tron and ADA or ADA. The difference between those, because they're different, they're targeting different solutions in the world, so they are different. You can't say they're the same. They're different. Tron kind of just smashed right through there and said, "Hey, we're the best." But what they did was they just copied Ethereum's open source white paper, right, and basically call it their own. It's open source. They have a right, so they can do it. But the problem is they didn't take the necessary precaution to build it correctly. Just like everybody's a little bit frustrated with ADA, but they're taking the time to really bring forth solutions, apparently, with the real world system of coding. So it's not just like Ethereum DeFi, where it's a decentralized DeFi business done within DeFi itself. But ADA is a blockchain that's trying to help world solutions with the world's code. So that's why it's taken so long. They're two different blockchains.
And I would say it's like the lottery. You know what I mean? Most people who win the big game, the millions, they lose their money. Why? They've never taken the time to learn what money is and how to appreciate money versus millionaires and billionaires. They're millionaires and billionaires before they realize that they're millionaires and billionaires.
Very true.
It's like just one day, they're like, all right, what do I got to pay? And their accountant is like, nothing. The rest is yours. They're like, oh. And then they keep living that frugal lifestyle they've used to.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so Ethereum has a different discipline than most other chains. And it's not to say nobody's going to overtake them. Again, it's, you know, the first.
Yeah, it's still the Wild
best.
West. It's still the Wild West.
Right. But yeah, it's better for all of these solutions to take their time. Like you were just talking about with Cardano. It's much better to take your time and get it right because you're not building World of Warcraft. We only have one chance to get this right. Yeah. And if we blow it and we lose all faith in the system and something like Ethereum falling, something like Bitcoin falling,
it's going to set us back years.
It could set you back indefinitely. It could kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're not going to let somebody else come in and do it again.
I heard eventually, yeah, you're absolutely right. That the governments will take over and say, we'll show how it's done, right? Because they have a means to do it, right?
Right.
Once they get their head out of their butt. But leave it up to us first, which is great. But I also heard that even though we have so many diversities in chains, proof of work, proof of stake, they're going to have to communicate eventually down the line. If they do not, then we're in a world of hurt because not one chain.
So that's
has
where your chain links come in and all those types of Oracle type.
Yeah, I mean, not one chain is going to do it all.
Right.
It's almost impossible because based on the code.
Yeah, you don't. Right, Nate. You don't want it to be from a kind of crisis management perspective. You don't want, if one thing goes wrong, God forbid, and everything is dependent on that one chain, it's catastrophic.
Yeah, I would rather see like something like Bitcoin be the store of value. Yeah, it's like gold. I'm never going to buy a coffee with Bitcoin. You know what I mean? I'd rather see that and then be able to decentrally, wrap it into like Ethereum, which I can use to power some dApps, and then use that also in some kind of other thing for my buying coffee situation. All of it happens in the background, so as a user, you're not swapping back and forth. But
you did mention that Bitcoin ain't going to go away. Period, guys. The scalability, it might not be there as what we want it to be, or like Satoshi's original vision of Bitcoin for the world. But there is still development to be built on Bitcoin. And you guys mentioned Lightning Network. Well, the same people that iterated Lightning Network are stepping away from Lightning Network, and they're starting Liquid for Bitcoin. So you guys might want to pay attention to Liquid for Bitcoin.
Yeah, I've been following Liquid and stuff, and who knows where the solution is. I agree. I don't think Bitcoin right now, today, there's nothing that's going to displace Bitcoin today. But yeah, it's what you want your platform to do. Bitcoin should not try. You got a lot of the Bitcoin maximalists, like they hate on Ethereum or other projects. Like, well, we can build it on Bitcoin eventually. It's like, I wouldn't even want you to.
Right.
I don't want Turing completeness in it or any kind of script coding, because I want you to focus on storing value and being very good at transacting data.
Right.
That's why I want you to
agree.
I want Ethereum to work on dApps, and I want each platform, and it's a testing thing. I want each platform to be really good at what they do, and that's that. And then we find Oracle to bridge the gap.
Yeah, no, I agree. Great conversation today, guys. I want to finish up with these two questions from Brian Jones, and either you can chime in on this. What are your thoughts on Hex, if any? Did you claim your free coins? Nothing else, just to dump. He said he claimed his free mined ones with Bitcoin holdings and have profit. Any thoughts? I'm not a big Hex fan.
No comment.
No comment.
No comment.
Well, I'll comment. I think it's a scam, and people made money on BitConnect. There are a lot of people who made real money on BitConnect. I mean, even a scam can pay out. And
absolutely, it does. I don't think it's. I think it's. I'm not touching it.
I'm for open public chains, right?
Yeah.
As a personal view, that's not. I think open public chains are the way to go. As far as a base layer, I've had debates on like Twitter and stuff with people about like DeFi.
Yeah.
DeFi is definitely finance, but it's definitely not decentralized. It's all centralized.
Yeah.
And I don't really have, the only problem I have with it is that people think it's decentralized.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm all for building on Ethereum or any blockchain as a centralized entity, as a profit-making motive. What I'm against is people promoting something like it's the next Bitcoin or next Ethereum or next something, and it's really just a money-making scheme for themselves. And that's how, I know people feel that way just about Ethereum, period. But like something like Monero, which didn't have a pre-mine, something like Bitcoin, which didn't have any kind of pre-mines, and were sort of altruistically given to the world to build upon, that's really what I'm here for. And that's what I think is important. What you build on top of it, it can be as centralized and money-making as you want to.
Yeah,
but
good point.
Hex has come out there like, hey, we're going to be this decentralized thing, and by the way, I'll get rich off of it.
Yeah, there's no way. I personally don't think especially, and Richard Harris called in to the show live stream before. That was hilarious, and we were talking about Hex, and I was like, I just can't get with it, and it's too convoluted, and how this, that, and then I'm like, when you complicate things too much, that's when I start getting worried. When you start but yeah, I don't touch it, Brian. Not at all, not touching that one. Last question from Brian, and thanks for the super chats, Brian. He said, just for fun, what are your thoughts on Biden saying you ain't black if you don't vote for him? I want to get this from a white man and the brother here. So whoever want to chime in first.
It was stupid. Yeah, I mean, it is pure. It's stupid, and I know we're in this ideological war or something right now. So you got to be so against Trump that we got to forgive everything Biden says, and it was stupid. I don't think he's some racist for saying it. I think he was wrong. He reminded me. I put on Twitter or something. During that whole interview, I didn't want to judge just the snippet when that was what was flying around. So I went back and watched the whole interview.
Thing. Me too. I did that last night.
And he reminded me off the dad of Get Out. He just tried so hard to
be a brother.
Yeah, he was like, I'm relatable.
Hey,
I'm relatable.
Yeah, man. Look at man.
And that's whack to me. You know what I mean? It's super whack. Bro. It was super whack. So I think every piece of criticism he gets, he deserves it. It's nothing you're gonna make, whether you're pro-Trump, pro-Biden, or like me, pro-screw all of them. You know what I mean? It's nothing worse than we've heard from the opposition, but it was stupid as hell, and he deserves every bit of flack he gets for it. And so does the Democratic Party.
What's your thoughts on it?
Who, me?
Yeah.
I try not. Well, all right. Well, we've talked. I was on this show called Unchained one time, and we talked about everything. Okay, so here's my thoughts on that. Which president was it? And I believe he was a Republican that fought against slavery.
fought against
not a history buff. You know that one, Nate?
That'd be Abraham Lincoln, maybe.
Yeah.
That'd be Abraham Lincoln.
Okay.
Now, you want to see a righteous man? Look how he talked publicly.
Right. Yeah.
He didn't say anything stupid like that. Come on, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, I agree. I think, like Nate said, he deserves whatever pushback and from the media or social media more so, because the media is not going to really cover it like that. But I don't think he's racist, but that was just stupid. Just be yourself, man. Like, pandering to black people by trying to say man and using slang and just like that offends me. That offends me to the utmost.
And it's almost like, he's had that background with Obama and whatnot. And it's like when you bump against somebody who can say the N-word, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who get out a pass. It's like, all right, you got a pass there, you don't got a pass here. But ultimately, when it comes down to it, as a sign-off call for all of this, almost 99% of everything we talked about is really a distraction. The most important thing we talked about tonight was the Patriot Act part. Yeah. Because it's not ending there. If this is what we know about, this is what we know they're doing. This was the relevance of Snowden. This is why you need a censorship-resistant currency, a censorship-resistant network for building platforms on. Everything else is really a distraction. Keep your eyes on the ball, because people in power didn't get there on accident. And the only thing we really got going for us, and again, this is why I sort of am anti-conspiracy theory on a certain level, is the only thing we have going for us is that the powers at will don't agree. They fight each other. Have they ever got together for real, like the Illuminati or something? If that was like real, it'd be already over with.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So keep your eye on the ball, focus on what's really important. You know what I mean? And that's everything else is just noise. Because in 10 years, it's going to be the newest outrage on who's the worst president in the world.
Absolutely.
Trump isn't the cause of anything. Obama wasn't the cause of anything. Biden, if he wins, won't be the cause of anything. These are all the results of, in this election, the most important thing, this will probably bring up some of my political, I hate all politicians, I hate all parties, but like Mitch McConnell is the most important person in politics right now.
Right.
They got us looking at these presidents. Mitch McConnell is the one who stopped, if you were pro-Obama, he stopped everything Obama did. You know what I mean? Yeah. And if you're pro-Trump, he's the one who has allowed everything that Trump has been able to do.
Right.
That's where the election matters.
And I think I saw on Twitter you mentioned how Andrew Yang running, trying to get that seat is more important. It's a more important topic.
Yeah.
Than anything. Him running for president.
Absolutely. President is the most overrated office. Now, every president goes in and grabs a little bit more power from Bush to Obama. You know what I mean? They all try to grab a little bit more power. But the way our system is currently run and still sort of runs, they're not the most important person. Your local representative,
right, includes
like your senators, your U.S. senators, your member of Congress. Those are the people that make things effective in your life. And so to talk about whether you ain't black, or to talk about whether HCQ is the right thing or not, that's a distraction. They got your eyes off the ball. You know what I mean?
Well, man, it's been a pleasure having you on, Nate.
Oh, man, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, definitely going to have you on again. Where can people find you, man? I got your Twitter up here.
Yep, Twitter's the best thing. I only do Twitter because of Bitcoin. I try to get away from all social media because I think it's the root of all evils, right? But if you want to know what's going on in crypto, you have to be on Twitter. So it's the best place to connect with me. Go to DetroitBlockchainCenter.org, find out what we're doing there. We're a nonprofit. We try to model ourselves off of an open public blockchain system. And, get with me. And let's talk.
Well, there you have it, people. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for joining this evening. This is the new date and time. We're going to do Sundays, 5 o'clock going forward. I think we can get more participation on that slot. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe, and click that bell to receive more videos like this. We out of here, people.
Stacking my coin, stacking my coin, stacking my coin, stacking my coin. Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, cash. Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, cash. Stacking my coin, stacking my coin, stacking my coin, stacking my coin. Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, cash. Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum. Man, fuck fiat paper, I'm after a new caper. Staying tuned to the moves of wicked dudes and skyscrapers. I'm rising up to swags of a new flavor. I'm after a new layer of profit and lot.
Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Then I keep it close to the chest.
Fucking thing sucks! We'll do it live.